Vancouver, Canada, the heart of British Columbia. The green city that marvels us with the mountains and the ocean. But it's a city that moves too fast, where it's harder to find the feeling of community. There's one place in particular where connecting with others is still treasured: Mount Pleasant. It's here where two souls from distant places came together to create a cafe unlike any other. It's not an office. Don't bring your laptop. A place where you don't come to have a coffee with your smartphone. A place where a fellow patron can become a friend for life. It's the Lion's Den. For over 2 decades, the Lion's Den is where people have been coming together under one motto: one love.
It's one of Vancouver's hidden secret and treasure, we call it. It's located at 651 East 15th Avenue.
I told you we'd get to the address later, okay? I told you we'd have that later. You don't have to worry about that yet.
I'm not worried at all.
This is where Ken Brooks and Junko Tanabe met. And with them, they brought their Japanese and Caribbean flavors to create something never tasted before.
Places like the Lion's Den are the kinds of places where 5 strangers could go by themselves to just get a cup of coffee or a meal and leave with 4 new friends. My name is MJ Knowles. My father is Ken Brooks. He owns the Lion's Den. He married Junko, my stepmother, and we opened the Lion's Den in 1999.
And since then, what I've been doing is keeping track of all of our days of operation.
There are no social barriers at the Den. There are no cultural barriers, no social barriers, no barriers.
I'm not above you, I'm not below you, but I'm with you.
Ken Brooks' vision was to bring people together through food and beverage. Because with great food comes great conversation. And with Ken, always a remarkable energy.
Ken is somebody that grew up in a restaurant. His mother owned a restaurant. And he always knew he was going to do that when he got older.
I was doing nothing but trying to get into business. I just didn't know which business I would be good at. And when I got into restaurant, well, you know, like a flower, I bloomed.
My description of Junko is she's conscientious, man. She loves that restaurant as much as Ken does. And she's holding it down right now because he's unable to do what he did from the start at this point in his life. And she's holding it down. She's in the kitchen cooking everything. And
walked in the door, 12 o'clock, lunch hour. She never left until 6:30 p.m. And I knew after half an hour speaking with her, it was the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
He saved my life. He is angel.
Have a creative day. However you want to interject creative into a sentence, you can't think of Ken Brooks without thinking of the word creative.
But Ken was the heart. He was and he was funny. Everybody was like, have a creative day. That is the saying of the Lion's Den. Have a creative day.
he used to be there greeting at the door and big smile on his face and tell you to have a seat wherever you want to sit down. And
The Den's legacy goes beyond its unique food. It's an intergenerational experience. You can't replicate it anywhere else.
Jamaican patties, coffees, real food, some jerk chicken, the best jerk chicken in town, by the way. That's some jerk chicken, boy.
But that's one of the most fascinating features of the place is that it's a fusion of Japanese and Jamaican cuisine, and it's just off the charts, man.
That's what I wanted, East to meet West, and through food and beverage.
So my father is a very creative person. He would come up with all different kinds of ways to combine things and create things and make things different from the normal. So a word like Japaribian, I've never heard it anywhere outside of the Lion's Den. And when you say it, if you don't know what it is, you kind of have an idea just based off what the word is, right? If I say Japaribian to someone who's never heard that word before, they're going to say, would that be like Japanese and Caribbean?
Definitely, probably no other place in the Western Hemisphere that has that fusion food.
And I love the teriyaki jerk combination because I like that. I can't do too spicy.
And we also have my specialty, of course, jerk chicken, man.
So the recipes they use at the Lion's Den, they come from a long time ago, from Ken's mom, who raised him in the restaurant.
Even though I never got to go to the Bahamas, I was able to connect to my roots and my family through the recipes that my father was able to bring from back home. And now anybody that comes in the Lion's Den can experience that same feeling.
And the music was bumping, you know, and Ken was such an affable, wonderful brother. And Junko was there at the time. They weren't married at that point.
Our focus will be business. But so many people are asking us to get together, and I guess that's why we're refusing to.
A wild character, somebody whose presence does not go unnoticed. You walk in a room and you know when he's in the room. And you feel better just by being in the same room as him. He is the kind of man who took an idea like a restaurant, a cafe, and he made it a home experience that people want to go just to hang out. I cannot tell you how many people would come into the Lion's Den just to chill for the entire day. Not even order anything for the entire day. It was just a place they wanted to be because my father creates that type of energy, that type of experience. There's stories that get told, there's real communication, not just surface level, short-term, small talk. You're having real engaging conversations with strangers, and everybody talks to everybody and welcomes everybody else in with open arms because of the tone that my father sets in the room.
For all of us, and for yourself, please give yourself a round of applause. Marianne, ladies and gentlemen.
It's appealing to go back to the Lion's Den, partly for the connection with Ken. Like, it's always joyful, always welcoming.
There's a real community and a real family feel to the people that come to the restaurant. That's what Friends was. It was that thing of people, it's their family without being their real family. You know, it's a family.
And we're here. One love from the Lion's Den Café. You got Ken, you got Junko, and you got Tom the Dance Man. All kicking. All right. Reggae night at the Billboard Hotel.
He had a lot of live music going on, and a lot of the people who worked as waiters and waitresses were students. Some of them were entertainers. They were singers, and quite often he'd make a little stage right right next to the counter thing, and you come in there and it was on. It was like karaoke, and it was lovely. And for a while, he could do it outside, and that was my favorite, because outdoors in the sunshine right in front of the restaurant, and you know, a beautiful park across the street.
So September the 9th was the big party, and then there'd be live music and people eating, and you know, it was just great.
First anniversary of the Lions Den, September 9th, 2000. When you first walk up to the place, inside the room to the left, we had cleared out the tables. It was a live band playing. And when the live band is not playing, there's a DJ playing. We took all the tables, put them all outside, and we filled the whole block. People in the park by the dozens, if not 100 people, just sitting in the park. Speakers outside the Lions Den. So whatever the band was playing or whatever the DJ's playing is blasting. The whole neighborhood could not ignore us. Food is just flying out the kitchen continuously. We pre-cooked so much stuff so that way we could just put it on plates and just have it continuously going out, because we knew there was going to be tons of people there to support. Raffle tickets. I'm 11 years old selling raffle tickets to people, the 50-50 draw. We had a little balloon animal artist, and I had a balloon animal thing. I can't even, a swan or something like that. I don't know. It was on my head, and I had the face paint on as a lion. I was a little junior little lion kid.
There's a local saying that Vancouver is a no-fun city. But the people who say that have definitely not been to the Den.
Just people, energy. The live music was great. It was so great, in fact, that in the second year anniversary, we did it even bigger. We built a huge stage that took up like a quarter of the block, and we put an even bigger band on it the next year. And it was the same thing, except there was more people and the park was packed. The third year, the city came out with this new regulation that you had to pay a fine and da-da-da to shut down the street, because we had shut down the street. Cars couldn't drive down the street because there was people all in the roads right out front of the Lions Den. Literally, cars couldn't, they would turn down, and that's a one-way coming down 15th Ave. They would turn down and have to back up and then go a different way because we had too many people outside the Lions Den. Live reggae music, live everything. When you think Caribbean music and food and culture and community, it was all there. It was all packed. We had some tings, we had some Jamaican patties, jerk chicken, roti, everything. You name it, we were serving it.
Yeah, and that's where people were coming, and I can't blame them. It was on and popping, man. You know, but that era came to a conclusion. It ended, and now it's a memory. You can't do it again. We can sit outside, but you can't put the band out there.
And anybody in that community would say the same thing. People who know my pops that aren't from that community might not understand, might not get it to the same degree, but anyone that lived within 10 blocks of the Lions Den over 99 to 2016, all of them would say, oh yeah, community, great word for Ken.
At one point, he informed me that he and Junko were going to get married. And I was a bit flabbergasted. I did the little doggy thing, but yeah, and he decided that he was going to have the ceremony right there in the Lions Den, which I went to the other side. But it was a great idea. And the ceremony was beautiful, just a few folks there. And It was one of the highlights of the den, for sure. I gotta say, it's just one more step down a long, beautiful journey of the Lion's Den. And anybody that was there will never forget it. He's always been in really good shape. He worked out. He went from these marathon walks and things for forever. I went with him a couple of times and I had to stop doing it, because dang, that brother could walk, man. But at one point, my brother, he suffered.
Sure, you heard, I had a heart attack back in August 22nd of 2004.
Yeah.
And
Ken's stroke in 2004 was a big hit. But nothing could have prepared anyone for what happened in 2016.
Okay, that's good. You like to help Junko. That's good, because she's doing a lot of work here.
Yeah.
So we're just waiting for this to cook down a little bit. Yes. We'll put it in with the salmon, with half a cup of water and some of the spices.
Thank you for wanting.
One of the reasons I never went to the Bahamas was because I always wanted to go with my father. I wanted to go together. I wanted him to give me a tour of where he grew up and point at his old elementary school. And I know he used to work in the casinos when he was a kid. So, and by a kid, I mean like late teens, early 20s. And I wanted that firsthand, show me, here's where I stood, and now I'm standing in those same places, and from father to son. I always wanted that. 2016, 4 days after my pop's birthday, 2 days after his birthday party, he ended up suffering a stroke. On the Saturday, we had a huge party, and everyone that knows and loves Pops was there, and we were drinking and celebrating and playing loud music way past midnight. And you would have no idea anything was wrong. You would have no idea life was about to change so drastically. When I came home from work, I went to bed. He was already asleep. And when I woke up the next morning at like 10 in the morning, I had missed calls and voicemails from Junko. And she never called me this many times in a row. And she definitely never left me voicemails. She lives next door. So normally she would just knock on the door or come wake me up or something if something was an emergency. So when I wake up, I already know something's wrong just by looking at my phone within 2 minutes of opening my eyes. And as I listen to the voicemail, it's just a voicemail from Junko. And so I'm hang up the phone, I call right away. I'm like, what's going on? What happened? And at that time, we hadn't had the diagnosis of stroke. We just knew something was going wrong, something wasn't right. In no way, shape, or form could you convince me first thing in the morning that life was going to be so different after. He had suffered a heart attack 10 years prior to that, and it felt like a repeat of that. Everything, the way that morning went, the way Junko was talking to me, the way my dad looked in the hospital, everything was reminding me from the heart attack from 10 years ago, and he recovered from that fully as if it had never happened. So in my mind, I'm thinking, this is the same thing. It's not that I wasn't taking it seriously, just that I believed everything was just gonna go back to normal, in a few days, maybe a few weeks of recovery. And they pulled us into the side room, and the doctor, I don't know if he was new or what, but he straight up told us, like, he's about to die. Get your family out here and get all your last minute preparations in order. He's got maybe 24, maybe 48 hours, and then say your goodbyes. And so then, we break down. I'm crying. I had never cried in front of Junko before this. Going through my phone, trying to find all the people who I thought Pops would want to be there to say goodbye. And it was a hefty list. Blue was one of those people.
And that one was scarier than the previous one, because on that one, they even were saying, I don't know what doctor was, they were predicting that he wasn't gonna make it, But I ain't trying to hear that, because I know him, he's gonna be around. But that doctor freaked out some people, man. And Junko was, ooh.
I got my mom coming out, we got friends coming, and we packed that waiting room. For 2 weeks, that waiting room was packed. I feel so sorry for everyone else that was in the ICU and had people that wanted to come visit, because there were no empty seats in the waiting room of the ICU for 2 full weeks, because different people were coming to visit my dad and pay respects. And 3 or 4 days later, the doctor said, I might have made a mistake. Something has changed. Your father's getting better. He might make it. He might actually pull through. Sorry for saying he was definitely gonna die 2 days ago. And I was like, I knew it. And everyone that came through were like, we knew it. People were praying. People were sending their positive energy, and it was working. And then I think it was on day 15 that he opened his eyes and was able to move around again. And
I think everybody understood that this was a hard time. Was he going to be able to do anything? How was Junko going to be able to continue on?
Thank you. Oh, God.
Slowly started to get some more of his personality back and recognition.
He came back. He lost his power of speaking, though. He lost the ability to form words.
I spent a lot of time, like that changed me, that changed who I am, my value on life and how I move in the world, just from spending those few weeks every day by his side in the hospital. That's when I started to say, okay, we're gonna figure out how to do life now with this sudden difference. I had realized how serious it was during that 2-week ICU bit. And then by the end of that year, by the end of 2016, he got to come home. He came home that December. And the Ken that you now see when you go in there is the Ken that came home December 2016. And slowly since then, he's just made these little improvements over time. Now he can go for a multiple hour walk around the park in the neighborhood. He does steps up and down every day, multiple times a day. And these are all things that he's slowly just been getting his strength back over the past few years. And now we're kind of at a place where this is how life is, and we're all accustomed to it, and it's the new normal. But it was definitely a scary time for a good little while there in 2016.
And now, the way he expresses himself is he says, ma, 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 ma. Now he can indicate what he means, and you can pick up on most of it. And he can certainly understand what you're saying. So he's still in the game, but I look forward to the day when he recovers his power of speech and can go on and on like he is prone to do. Because he's one of the most fun people I've ever met. And now I want to see him fully being Ken again. And I have no doubt that's going to happen.
There's a real community and a real family feel to the people that come to the restaurant. You know, people know each other, and it was a bit different, but a lot of the people still came back. You know, the regulars came back, and you know, I think a lot of people wanted to support Ken and Junko.
The personality is the main reason why people would come into the room. And although things have changed now, you still feel that same energy when you enter the Lion's Den. You still get that positive vibe. You still get people who want to come to the Lion's Den just to hang out on a Sunday afternoon, whether they're ordering food or not. If they're just passing through the neighborhood, you're still going to get those people that come in just to say hello.
Bye, Ryan. Bye, Skip. Take it easy. Boom. There you are. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. It's nice to meet you, man. Tell you.
Records and patties, man.
Yeah.
We found a new place. Legit.
There you go.
Yeah, you guys have a good day.
Yo, tell your son thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
A couple of people came in. They've become indispensable to the place. One of them is you. The other one is Cece. And now there's a waiter and a waitress that knock it out of the park.
Those two have really brought back the spirit in the restaurant. There's a really good sense of feeling like it used to be, because it's lighter and it's really helped Junko, because Junko was really so stressed, having to take over everything herself.
And they really make things so uplifting. Even if you've had a tough week, you're going to feel better.
The kids love you guys. They just love you guys. And I think that's, because that was what Ken would do. Ken's very affable and lovable and loving. And, the kids would come in and he'd make them all feel like they were the star of the show. They were the most important person in the place.
Behind. Yeah. There you go, boss. Watch up. Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't want to be too much.
A knife?
Could I have utensils as well?
Oh, you're not using your hands?
King, how are you, sir?
How are you, boss?
I'm excellent. The lion and the king is getting together.
Yeah, what's your name, man? Dean. Jonah. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in.
Roti shells, Junko?
Junko, 3 chicken patty to go when you get a chance. Okay.
What a kind of order.
Yeah, it's crazy. Jerk sandwich, avo egger, ham egger, bacon egger.
The neighborhood's called Kensington Cedar Cottage. That particular shop is in a row of shops that are eclectic, all the way from high-end restaurants to kind of like a costume shop, coffee shops, gluten-free, some mysterious shops that seem to have an amazing lack of product, and yet they're still in business. And then the guy 2 doors down that has a martial arts studio, but you hear him playing on his saxophone from time to time. So there's stimulation for every sense that changes every time you come down that street. The problem is the real estate quadruples when the developers go in and even put up those 4-story. And you may have noticed in a lot of cases, the retail space is sitting empty. Even a couple years after the new development, it's just too expensive. And the only shops usually that can afford to fit into those spaces are chains. So these one-off, very intriguing, creative places like the Lion's Den don't stand a chance. If the rents increase that much, there's no way they could keep up with it. So a lot would be lost. It would be like this very large, diverse community center where people gather for different kinds of things will just disappear, and it'll just become this kind of uniform monoculture that you see in other strips of development in the city. I hate to say it, but Vancouver's going to lose its character. It's important.
Well, they're so important because they're so rare. And they're so hard to keep going because, if you're a chain of restaurants, if one of your restaurants is having a little bit of trouble, you've still got you've got a bit of something to fall back on. When it's a little place like that, it's dependent on, that's all there is. I think that the city, I don't know if they have the foresight to realize that these are little jewels. These are perfect little places that people can go to that make you feel good. They're not just some chain that you go to and the food is all the same. I think they just have to change their way of seeing these small places. Support small business, support a small restaurant.
I worry. If I'm being completely honest, I worry about places like the Den. In the 90s and early 2000s, that was the cool thing to do. You would go to these places and it was a story you wanted to tell. Now it's a blog article that 20 people read one time and say, oh, cool, I should check that out one time, click.
And I would say quality of life is partly green space, but it's also social space, human space. And, this restaurant and other shops around there are that kind of very human space. It just makes you feel alive to be there.
Regardless of the fact that Pops had a stroke, regardless of the fact that the doctors told us he was for sure about to die in 48 hours. He's still himself. A lot of people, when something so life-changing and negative happens to them, they get sucked into this, my life sucks, and they go down. And my father has never let it change who he is. He's still the same positive person. And now he laughs about it and he's like, mama, like, what can you do, right? Like, that's the way the cookie crumbles kind of thing. And that's one of the reasons why he's still around. That's one of the reasons why he's still as strong as he is because he's chosen to look at it through a different lens. He doesn't think, oh, poor me. He thinks, well, here's another thing that's made this thing called life. Like, it is just a different part of the story now. And he's totally embraced it. And now he can make jokes about it. And now it's part of his new character. Still has that positivity. He still has that light, that love, that shine that people want to be around. Even though he can't communicate the same way, you still feel that same feeling that you felt 10 years ago before the stroke.
No matter how many hits it's taken, how many hits this little coffee shop, restaurant has taken, it keeps coming back. And it keeps coming back with good people, people who are willing to help, people who feel comfortable with other people, who like other people, who like other cultures, who like other colors, who don't care, you know, they want to have a nice place where they feel at home and they feel loved. And that's, I think, probably the most important thing in the whole place is the love.
I think every city has some of those kinds of places. And I was just lucky to live in that neighborhood and walk along and encounter Ken and go inside and get to know the people. Even some of the volunteer staff there are endlessly amusing people.
One love, one love. That's so perfect, yeah. And Ken used to say that all the time, one love.
Why do you think the rest of Vancouver can't really kind of match this community feeling of the Den?
Because of Ken. If I had to pick out a certain reason, which I have to do because you just made me, it's because he's like I say, he's love personified. He's realized his dream. When he was a kid, he wanted to open up a restaurant, and boy, did he ever. You know, it does his mom proud. I met his sister.
It really impresses me how dedicated Ken and Junko are to each other, because the Lester couple wouldn't have hung in. A, restaurants don't tend to last that long. B, with Ken's medical issue from a few years back, boy, they've worked together hard. And I can say, when people come in and greet both of them, it's not pity, it's love. People really love them and they appreciate the love those two have together. They're really one of the most impressive couples I've ever run across.
Yeah, so it's very, very special. And like I say, you don't dismiss something like that because it's not everywhere you go. I go to other restaurants and things, but they can't do what this is doing. Not the Lion's Den.
Junko, oh yeah, number one. Junko, come here.
Why don't we let you take the chair?
No, Dad.
You stand there by yourself. Okay.
You
see me?
He's not his name.
You see me? Come here. Want to take a picture? Relax. Proud people of the Lion. We're a family. Relax. It's okay.
Don't do that.
And we also would like to tell everybody the story of why this place is called the Lion's Den, and a little story about Junior. I'm sure that you probably told everybody here, but let's just tell that story because it's such a great story about Junior, and I think that
Back in 1995, I met him. I moved here in 94, and he saw the vision that I had in my eyes and in my voice, that I was determined to get off welfare and do something for my son sitting here on the lap. And we brainstormed for so many years and could not come up with any goals to achieve. I came from telemarketing background. I also came from a lot of different backgrounds, but as you can see, I'm passionate about people, food, and beverage, because it's what it takes for all of us to live. We went through the ups and downs like nobody else. No other businessman in the city would put up with me because he could see I was determined to achieve my goals.
Alright, last chance for any tickets.
Thank you, Ken.
See you tomorrow, about 10.
Huh? That's a wrap, eh, Ken?
I guess that's a wrap. Yeah, man.
Wrap today.
We're looking forward to year 2.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
We'll do it again next year, for sure. We'll be
In
big.
grandiose
Very
style.
big.
But we need Mother Nature to cooperate with us. Because next year I'm booking the park. It's too small. You know, and I knew that, but I was hoping the weather be nice because we had table